really loud, loosely, whatever, having fun. And all of a sudden, we start hearing the N word. She gets up on her chair and screams, George Floyd! George Floyd! What? But not only are they racist, but they're creatively racist. So, I mean, I guess I can give them props for being creative with it. Hey, y'all. So today's topic is a little bit heavy, but we're just going to get right into it. So, this story time took place when I was a senior in high school and I was 17 years old, and we were on our senior trip. We went to Helen, Georgia, and it was like in the mountains, a lot of outdoorsy activities. We did whitewater rafting, hiking, a lot of hiking, and we did ziplining. So that part of the trip was cool. Like, I loved it. I love being active. Oh, we did archery as well. Like, so great. We were making so many memories, but it wasn't until about the third day of that trip where it just went down. Like, I don't even know how to explain it to this day. I'm at a loss of words for what we experienced, and I can't even believe it sometimes myself that we experienced this. And it almost like makes me like psych myself out, and I'm like, did I really go through that? Or like was it even really that serious? Or am I just like, was I really just triggered like because of the timing of it? But more like every single time I think about it, I just get more and more disgusted with my peers' behavior on that trip and why they thought in a million years they would get away with doing this stuff with minorities in the room. So here we go. So as I said, we went to Helen, Georgia, and our high school was located in Florida. So I'm not going to say the city, but somewhere in Florida. We took this bus drive up to Helen, and the trip was long. It was lengthy. And so if I remember correctly, I want to say this was a 13-hour bus ride. So I made a TikTok video on this whole situation. I was kind of like speeding up and rushing through the facts and everything, but I just wanted to get out the main point in the story of what happened. So if you want to check out that one because you want like a shorter version of the story, then I'll link my TikTok in the description below and you can check out those videos. But I think I said it was an 8-hour bus drive there. I was kind of thinking about Atlanta, but now that I remember, I'm almost certain that the actual number was 13. It was like 13 hours because it's at the top of Georgia and we're like in Central Florida. But anyways, so long bus drive, right? Well, me, my best friend, my brother, my other friend, we're all minorities. One of our friends, she's like Hispanic, but me, my brother, and my best friend are all black, and we were the only black people included on this portion of the trip. So how the trip was separated was there was an A part of this trip and there was a B part of this trip. So we're all on the A portion of this trip. And so unfortunately, there was only 3 black people on that side. And I think like when the other portion of this trip came, there was only like 2 black people. So in total, when the whole trip got together, there was like 5 black people out of the 80 students that was on the trip. But that's just a reflection of our school, because honestly, our high school is a predominantly white school and really small because it's a charter school. So of our 222 students that graduated from our class, the class of 2022, there was only 11 black students in total. So I don't know what that math is. I'll put it up on the screen right here, but that number is really small, the percentage of black students in our grade. So you can imagine what we've experienced, the amount of microaggressions, crazy ignorant comments said towards us over the years, but nothing like this had ever occurred. So it was really shocking. Anyways, back to the bus. So we were sitting in the back of the bus with other students, and we were like 2 seats in front of these people, and it was a whole group of them, and they were kind of just like talking like really loud, loosely, whatever, having fun. And all of a sudden we start hearing the N-word just casually, all of them, not all of them, but like 3 of them, like saying the N-word like to each other, like this is just how they normally talk behind closed doors. And we're just like, whoa, because we had never heard these students say that before. like I said, we've known them for years, but at school they don't talk like that. All of a sudden, it's just part of their vocabulary. So we were like, oh, wow. And it really caught us off guard, and we were really uncomfortable. But, regardless of how we felt about it, we were like, you know what? Some people are just ignorant and they don't understand that word is just not okay for white people to say. I'm sorry if you think otherwise, but regardless of if it's the friendly version or the hard R of that version, why does it need to be in your vocabulary in the first place? Like, you don't have to say that. And the fact that you're choosing to say that, like, it just, I don't know, it just makes me feel a little bit weird about it. Like, okay, but anyways, so regardless of that, we kind of just like took that as a note, like, that's kind of weird, but whatever. Also, something that I didn't mention in the TikTok videos that I made about this was we had a bus driver. He was like an old, elderly man. He was probably like 70, and he was black. And literally, this group of like individuals, they were screaming at the top of their lungs at this man, like profanities, like just absurd, obscene things at this man while he was driving us on the bus. And obviously their excuse was because he was driving crazy, which I will agree with them. He was driving crazy. Like, we were going up the Georgia mountains, and I thought we were about to fly off that cliff. I'm not gonna lie, but instead of being like, oh my gosh, like, man, no, they were like cussing this man out. Children cussing out the man that's driving them. Like, he's taking his time to drive us up there. Like, I don't know. It was giving entitled and honestly a little bit aggressive. And I fear that a part of that was because he's black. Like, given everything that I know now, I honestly think it's because he was black, why the little bit of aggression was coming out. These white kids screaming at this old man. That was day one, right? A little crazy, but nothing. You haven't seen anything yet, y'all. So day two, we are coming back from whitewater rafting, which, guys, I loved whitewater rafting. I think I have some pictures, so I'll include the pictures on the screen. I'm not gonna take like credit where credit is due. The actual trip was fun. It was the crazy crap that my classmates were doing that was making it a literal hell on earth. And by the end of the trip, I felt unsafe. I wanted to go home, and I was questioning why I spent like $750 to be here. And my brother was with me, so that's a hefty amount. That's like $1,500. Is that more? No, it's $1,500 for both of us to be there. And I thought it was a waste of money because I was traumatized, and I will forever be traumatized by this experience. We were coming back from whitewater rafting, and how we had to get back to the bus was like literally trekking through the forest. Like literally in our soaking wet clothes when it was kind of like cold, and we had to get like to the top of this like mountain to get to the bus while we were carrying the rafts. Like, what the hell? Like, why didn't they tell us that we were gonna be doing these things? But I guess it was part of the adventure or whatever. But anyways, when we got to the bus, now we had to like get out of the woods. So we're coming like from the woods to go back to the hotel. It was like a hotel cabin. It looked more like a cabin. Anyways, so on this bus ride, there was a kid who said to my brother, like, he pointed out this shop on the road that was like a small little country looking shop, and it was called like the Rebel Shop, right? I'll see if I can like Google it honestly and put up the shop that I'm talking about, but it was called the Rebel Shop, and it had a big old Confederate flag like outside of it, like plastered up. And he was like, oh, would you go in that shop? Like, to my brother, being a black kid, like, it was like he was laughing, basically trying to like see if he was gonna have a reaction to what he was saying. And this was like just head turning, like, why? Like, once again, it's not crazy, but like, what provoked you to say that? Like, and not to mention, there was a conversation that they had earlier, like before this conversation, and basically, so I wrote it down because hold on, I have an entire email of everything that happened on the trip in dates and sectioned off, play by play, and I sent this to the school administrators. So I'm going to read off to you the conversation that happened before this. So, Tuesday, October 12th, and these aren't real names. I'm just going to use fake names for these people. Martin says to my brother, "What's something that Black people do?" Unprovoked, y'all. Unprovoked. My brother, probably sniffing that, like, this is about to be weird and boundary crossing, says, "Actually put seasoning on their food," like, joking. Then Martin says to my brother, "That's if they can actually afford to buy the seasoning." Now, you guys can say this is a silly joke, like we're just joking, friends joking, but Martin and my brother aren't friends. Martin is just a kid in our grade coming to my brother, like, asking what's something that Black people do. Excuse me? Like, these kids have no shame. They have no shame. So that happened before the whole Confederate flag thing happened. So you guys can see how this is like someone trying to provoke a response out of Black people. They think it's funny to see us like react to our actual pain and trauma of being a Black person in America. Like, it's ridiculous that like everything that they seem to do was for a reaction, and they got a reaction. All right, guys, so this is when it really goes down. This is Wednesday, October 13th, 2021. So the time window was from 9:47 to 10 p.m. So all of this literally occurred in 13 minutes. I'm going to tell you like the setting. We were at the hotel cabin, and everyone was kind of dispersed in different groups. I remember we were playing ping pong, me and my friends, and I remember looking at my Snapchat, like, the Snapchat maps that they have, and clicking on my Snapchat and seeing like everyone in different groups, right? So we're like, oh my gosh, like there's a group of people over here, like in this building, like let's go see what they're doing. So we go to that building, and when we walk in, it's like, everyone playing charades, or they were playing a game. We didn't know what it was, but we saw that they had like just wrapped up playing a game, and they were about to start like a new game. So when we walked in, we're like, okay, they're like writing down stuff on the cards of like what to do. So like, you guys know when you play charades, you're gonna write down an object or a place or thing, I don't know, like for someone to act out. So like, for example, if someone was like bartender, and that was what was on the card, and the person who's acting it out would like, I don't know, pour drinks or something, or like pop a bottle open. I don't know how to be a bartender, but anyways, and then the person would guess bartender, and then they get the point, right? I'm just explaining just in case someone doesn't know how charades works, because it's kind of important for this story. They're writing stuff down, and I would say this takes a good like 7 minutes or so, right? And when they're finally like, done and they're ready to start the game, they like collect everything that people were writing down, they put it in like a hat thing, and then they start. So the first offensive thing that took us off guard, because at first it was moving smoothly, like they were just doing like regular things, right? Like a pilot, something, I don't know, I'm just making this up, but it was smooth, right? And then all of a sudden, the crazy offensive stuff started rolling in, the racist stuff. So this guy in the grade, he gets a card, and it's his turn to perform, right? So he starts holding his breath like this. We're gonna call him Jared. Jared holds his breath, and people are like, underwater, not breathing. And then this girl, who I've been friends with personally from like 5th grade to like, I would say 9th grade, because around that time we kind of stopped like being close friends, but we were still associates. So this is 12th grade, remember this. She gets up on her chair and screams, George Floyd, George Floyd. what? But like I was here like, oh, she can't be for real. Then I'm looking at my friend like, did that just happen? Like, did I just hear that? Like, first of all, that's crazy. And if that's what the card actually is, that's crazier. Oh, he's like, correct, correct. What? What? I'm just like, I'm shocked. I'm at a loss for words. Like, I'm like, and at this point, you can like feel the eyes on us. People were looking at us like just looking at us like, oh, are they gonna say something? What are they gonna react? Kind of amused though, like smirking with it. And I'm just like, this is weird. So we didn't even have time to really fully like react to this because the rounds just kept going, 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 going. Now this is disturbing, so I'm just gonna advise you, if like you get triggered by like shootings or anything like violent like that, I would just skip over this part. So this kid took his thumb and dragged it across his neck like this, right? Now, I'm including this because I want you guys to understand that this is how we are assuming that people, like the people who wrote down the card, because some of these actions are just, it was just happening too quick for you to get it within one motion or something, right? Unless they just on their free time they like have an inside joke about this, and that's the only reason why they just knew it so quickly. Which, if that's the case, that's even more crazy and honestly disgusting and disturbing that they joke about it so much that they immediately know. He takes his finger across his neck, drags it like this. Immediately Martin guessed it. How did you get the Parkland shooting from that? What? Like, that's why we were just in such shock. Like, we couldn't even believe what was happening. And it was going so quick. Like, I kid you not, it happened within a couple of seconds, and then we were on to the next thing. So maybe like 2 turns later, the same kid who did this, he gets up and he has another card. And this one is crazy. So he has shoes on, and for the charade he takes off his shoes and he throws them in the middle of the floor. People like are guessing, but nobody really gets it. And then he starts going like, the shoes, like with his eyes real big, like they should know what he's talking about. Like, come on guys, like it's the shoes, like you remember. And then someone guessed the Holocaust. And so me and my friend are like, the Holocaust? Like, how are you, what's going on? So like my friend asked this girl who was sitting next to us, and she was like, I don't understand like how like the Holocaust has to do with the shoes. And so the girl's like, oh, like because whenever the Jews like had to be thrown in the furnace, like at the concentration camps, like they had to throw off their shoes before they died. What? First of all, not only are they racist, but they're creatively racist. So I mean, I guess I can give them props for being creative with it, and they're not just like saying the N-word at us, but like, you guys have the nerve to sit here and act out your racism in front of us, like with the minorities, with the black people in the room. My God. So the boldness was insane. This one is almost purely speculation, but not with like just us reaching. Okay, you guys tell me what you think about this one, but our theory is that this one had to do with police brutality or something, because the same girl that we had asked like, oh, like what does the Holocaust mean, she got a card and she was supposed to act something out, but instead she didn't, because she was like, we were sitting right next to her, so it would have been even more bold if she did that. And I think she got a little bit nervous, so she started like laughing. She's like, oh, I'm not gonna do that card. But before she did think about it a little bit, and she started gesturing like a gun, and then she was like, oh, like I'm not gonna do it, right? So we were curious, and my friend asked someone else, like, oh, because someone else had looked over her shoulder to see what was on the card, and they're like, oh, I'm not gonna do that one. And my friend was like, oh, what was on the card? And the person that we asked, she was like, oh, it said like Hooters girl. Really? It was Hooters girl, but she started gesturing a gun? Do you think we're dumb? Like, what? Okay. But you know what? I started thinking about this after the fact, and I was like, Hooters. Hooters. It sounds awfully like shooter. Like shot, like someone was shot. Like, I don't know. But why did she get nervous that she couldn't perform the card? And she knew that we felt a certain type of way about it because we had asked her about the Holocaust thing. She was sitting right next to us. So I think she didn't want to deal with the heat from us, and she got nervous and put down the card. But what I do think is that with enough, you know, reasonable deduction, I think that that had something to do with police brutality. And that's why I can't. Anyways, this was the last straw, guys. The last straw that we had, okay? So, the kid who did the whole Holocaust and the other thing, what was it? He did something else, okay? He got a card and he started whipping his hands in the air. We all knew what it was. We all knew exactly what he was gesturing, okay? He was talking about slavery, and immediately someone's like, slaves, the slaves. Ooh, that's when we got up and left. We got up and left, and we walked out of the room, and it was just like, no. Okay. By the way, as we were walking out of the room, the entire room was like, not only were they laughing, but they were looking at us. The whole room was looking at us to see what our reactions were. And these are all white kids. Okay. White kids. And in my TikTok, I said we were the only black people in the room, but I made a mistake. There was one other black person in the room who had come, because this was the night that the other half of the trip had came, and there was like two black kids on that portion, and one of them was in the room. He was across the room, and I remember making eye contact with him, like, do you see this mess? And like us like getting it with our eyes. But guys, later on when we tried to use him as like a witness, his family was like, no, we're not going to get involved. We're not going to get involved. It'd be your own people. But anyways, so we walked out and everybody was just looking like, oh my God, like, what are they going to do? What are the black people going to do? Do they feel weird? So we left. And immediately when I got into the room, I lost it. Okay. I was mad, but I was like, crying. I was crying, like so much tears. And this is because like when I get so mad but I can't do anything about it, like I want to fight. I physically want to fight somebody. I cry. So me and my best friend are crying. We're calling our parents, talking to them, telling them what happened. My mom couldn't believe it. My mom didn't even want me to go on this trip, but she was like, okay, like I'm gonna let you go because it's your senior trip and you really want to go. I'm gonna let you and your brother go. By the way, my brother was not in the room when any of this happened. He was like upstairs in a different room playing cards. So when I told him, like literally the next morning, and I told him everything that happened, he was infuriated because he was friends with some of these people. And obviously they were doing this behind closed doors. By the way, y'all, remember, we walked into the room when this was already going on. Like, which means they were already playing this way. Who knows what they said before this? Who knows what they play like on their free time when they're at homes, when we're at home and they're having parties or hanging out with each other. They probably do this frequently, right? No way this is a first time occurrence and you're doing this in front of minorities. That's bold. So, guys, I'm going to read to you what I sent to the school. During the duration of 13 minutes, many inappropriate subjects were put to light. George Floyd, Parkland shooting of 2018, the Holocaust, police brutality, and slavery were just the main events of many. In their eyes, this was supposed to be funny, and the entire game seemed as if it were plays to get a rise out of other teams. So, that sounds very like scholarly, like I'm writing like an essay. Well, that's because I have always been an aspiring lawyer. I did law. Like law was my academy when I was at school. Did that for a couple of years. So I'm not gonna lie. The people in this grade was not like, they were not really aware of who me and my friends were as Black individuals. Clearly they weren't. They weren't paying attention to how we moved, how we voiced like whatever, like because we made it very clear where we were, and we weren't like the black people who were just gonna sit down and do nothing about this type of stuff. So honestly, to this day, it makes me like question like what they were actually thinking doing this in general, but also doing this with us in the room. Like, honestly, because the minute that that happened, we went up and typed up everything, submitted it while we were on the trip. While we were on the trip, we submitted it to the school. I just want y'all to keep in mind that this game was anonymous. So, meaning like the people who wrote down the stuff, you don't know who wrote it down. You just know that they're doing the action, right? So, we can't like go back and be like, okay, that person wrote down the George Floyd thing. That person wrote down the slavery thing. We have no clue, but I can make a educated guess on who the people were because they seem to be the most enthusiastic about it, and somehow they just knew what it was, right? That was a lot. It was traumatizing. And remember where we were located. We were at a cabin in the middle of the Helen, Georgia woods. And the next day we had a 10-mile hike. A 10-mile hike that we took. And we were allowed to go with whoever we wanted. And the whole like trip went in the forest. We started out together, but then along the way we all kind of got separated. So at one point it was just me and my best friend walking alone in the middle of the freaking forest on a mountain. And at one point it was so dark you couldn't even see anything, and this was the middle of the day because there were so many trees, and we were scared that these kids were so infuriated that we like snitched, and we thought someone literally had the capability of like pushing us off the cliff when nobody saw. I kid you not. It sounds crazy, but we wouldn't put it past them at that point, because guys, the way that these kids were reacting after they figured out that we told on them like was crazy. I remember this kid was like on the bus that morning. He was like, I don't effing care. They're only mad at me because they just don't like me already, and they only told on me because they think I'm racist. How can I be racist when my best friend is black? Lord. Anyways, we're back there in the bus with them. We're in the back of the bus with them, and they knew this. And he was still like just talking his crap. And first of all, we actually snitched on everybody. It wasn't just him. I mean, I don't know what the staff told him. If they wanted to like just, oh, he's the one who's normally the troublemaker, so let's just get him on it and call him out. No, honey, we told on all of y'all. So I don't know what they told you, but okay. So anyways, that morning they had moved everyone who was sitting in the back of the bus to the front of the bus, and that made them mad. You know, it was giving like reverse segregation. I don't know, it was a little bit weird. I don't know what the staff was thinking, but oh, they weren't thinking, because actually that morning they had came to our room and they were like, girls, like, what can we do about the situation? Because I had told one of the staff members the night before, when she was coming around to like see like if people were up, like they need to go to sleep because we had a curfew, like taping in the doors. You know how they do. They were taping the doors, and when she came and opened the door, she saw that we were all like distraught and crying and stuff, and on the phone talking, screaming to our moms. And she was like, oh my gosh, what happened? So we explained to her what happened, and she just like didn't know what to do. And then she went to go tell the person who was over the whole trip. And then the person who was over the whole trip came to us in the morning and was like, girls, like, what do you want me to do about this? I'm like, honey, do your job. Why are you asking us? We're the ones that are like stressed out about this. We feel isolated and alone in the middle of the Georgia woods, like with our classmates. And we just figured out that the classmates that we've been with for so many years are like racist, and we had to spend the rest of senior year with them. Like, don't ask me, you figure it out. You're the adult, you're the administrator. So they didn't, like, I guess that was their solution. And when they did that, it was very clear that we were the ones who snitched. So then everybody was mad at us, even though they were the ones who were in the wrong. Guys, that was an experience. And I think, I don't know, this video is like really long and I'm kind of out of breath and I'm a little hot. I'm a little hot. Long story short is that a lot of people ended up getting suspended. One person could not run for homecoming king or prom king, and I remember him being really upset about that because he really wanted to do that. Um, but a lot of that, like the consequences of everything happening, happened because we, the students, me and my friend, were pushing so hard for them to not just give up. I know there have been so many students, minority students, because a lot of them are commenting on my TikTok who went to that school and were saying like, this happened to me, and the principals, like the administrators, did nothing. Like they just didn't know what to do because they didn't see it. um well, we didn't give them that choice because we wrote everything down, and we told the guidance counselor live after it happened, so people could not just refute the fact that this did happen. We made sure to get witnesses that were in the room with us, to back up our stories. And not only that, but afterwards we had multiple meetings scheduled with the administrators of the school, even the dean, like the dean of our school, and the director of all the schools that were involved, which is like our, what's it called, like our school superintendent. Basically, we made sure to have multiple, which by the way, he was on that trip and did nothing, but we made sure to have multiple meetings with them afterwards. And we were like, if you guys don't do anything, we are going to the NAACP, and you guys don't want that to happen. So they made sure to get their stuff done. Anyways, so I can do another video of the after effects of that, and how that this whole situation changed my life, honestly, because it's the whole reason why I went to FAMU. I was considering going to FAMU, like I had applied at this point, but it wasn't like my top option until this whole event happened. And I was like, I think I want to be around Black people. Like I think I want to go to an HBCU. I don't think I can handle 4 more years of literally being the only Black person in a situation, or a few Black people in a situation. Like I mentally cannot do this anymore. So it really like urged my decision to go, guys. I literally got accepted into 8 different colleges, and I chose the one who gave me the least amount of money, just so I couldn't put myself in the situation again. I literally got accepted into Florida, UF. I was like, I'm not going. But anyways, so that's today's story. I hope that if you guys ever have experienced something like this, just talk about it. Like I'm telling you, you don't want it to have an effect on you, so you kind of suppress it and don't do that. And I remember my freshman year of college opening up about this story to a couple people, and when they heard it for the first time, they were like, that's wild. Like we knew it was wild, but we didn't realize how wild it was until other people started reacting to our story. And we were like, me and my best friend would literally sit there and like jump in different parts of the story, be like, y'all, and this happened and this happened. And they'd be like, oh my goodness. And I remember some of the stuff that she would say, like even forgot myself, because it was like I was repressing it because I was so traumatized. Like when I say I'm traumatized, guys, I don't say that lightly. Like I generally, for the rest of the school year, the rest of my senior year, I was uncomfortable in all of my classes with these people. I was on the news, like the our new school news thing, and I showed up on camera, and I would be scared to even like film those videos with those people watching it in the classrooms, because who knows what they were saying about me out loud to other people, making up stuff, acting like I was overreacting when I was completely valid to feel how I felt. We were isolated for the rest of the school year, and people were like giving us like salty energy, like they were mean as hell. And I'm just like, y'all are the ones in the wrong though. And it's just crazy that people don't take accountability and actually realize the seriousness of their actions. But anyways, that's today's terrible story time, my heinous school field trip. um Guys, all I gotta say is people need to do better.
Now when they see us in the streets, all they wanna do is take